In our headlines on this Monday, February 17th, here in South Korea, senior Trump administration officials and their Russian counterparts are sitting down in Saudi Arabia this week to discuss peace in Ukraine in the latter's absence, much to the concern of Europe. Meanwhile, top diplomats from South Korea, Japan and the US met in Munich on the margins of an annual security forum and reaffirmed the Trilateral commitment against North Korea's nuclear ambitions. And President Yoon Suk-yeol's impeachment trial enters its final week with 2 additional hearings on Tuesday and Thursday, but his legal team is requesting a rescheduling of Thursday's session as the president's criminal trial starts on the same day. A senior U.S. delegation is meeting with its Russian counterpart in Saudi Arabia for talks about ending the Kremlin's aggression against Kyiv. The meeting also seeks to lay the ground for a summit between the leaders of the U.S. and Russia, also in Saudi Arabia. Our Yoon starts off.
Washington's Middle East envoy told Fox News on Sunday that he and White House National Security Advisor Mike Waltz would go to Saudi Arabia for talks aimed at ending nearly 3 years of war between Russia and Ukraine.
I am going tonight. I'll be traveling there with the National Security Advisor, and we'll be having meetings at the direction of the president, and hopefully we'll make some really good progress with regard to Russia-Ukraine.
However, speaking to NBC News on the same day, Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelenskyy said Kyiv had not been invited to the talks in Saudi Arabia, adding that Ukraine would never accept any deals made without them. During a previous interview last week, Zelenskyy also remarked that no one, including President Trump, should trust Russian President Vladimir Putin. Regarding Ukraine's absence from the talks, U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio told CBS News on Sunday that if real negotiations happen, Ukraine must be involved and that Europe must also be involved. He also emphasized that the next few days would determine if Putin was serious about achieving peace. Amid European concern that the U.S. is moving ahead on peace talks with Russia without consultation, French President Emmanuel Macron will hold an informal emergency meeting on Monday on security for Ukraine and Europe. According to officials, the meeting will include Germany, Britain, Italy, Poland, Spain, the Netherlands and Denmark, as well as the NATO Secretary General and the presidents of the European Council and the European Commission. Also on Sunday, U.S. President Donald Trump told reporters that he's working hard to bring peace between Russia and Ukraine and that he believes the leaders of both countries want to stop fighting. To a question asking about Ukraine's involvement in talks, he answered that Zelenskyy would be involved in the negotiations. Trump also hinted that a meeting with Russia's president in Saudi Arabia could happen soon, but no date has been set.
No, with no time set, but it could be very soon.
Meanwhile, Russia attacked Ukraine with 143 drones on Saturday overnight, injuring at least 1 person. According to Ukraine's prime minister, the attack damaged a thermal power plant in Mykolaiv in southern Ukraine. Zelenskyy said the attack left around 100,000 people without heat. He took to social media to condemn the attack, calling it a sign that Russians are waging war against our people and against life itself in Ukraine. Yoon, Arirang News.
Staying in the Middle East, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and visiting U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio have reaffirmed their resolve to eradicate Hamas from the Gaza Strip while reiterating Mr. Trump's ambitious plans for the region. Our Chae Kyoung-sun reports.
U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio visited Israel as his first stop during his first Middle East tour. On Sunday local time, in a meeting with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, Rubio pledged full U.S. support. He said that threats to violate peace should be eliminated.
Related to that, the president's been very clear. Hamas cannot continue as a military or government force. They must be eliminated. They must be eradicated.
Netanyahu stated that he is cooperating perfectly with President Trump and welcomed Trump's firm stance on the release of the remaining hostages. He also expressed support for Trump's plan to relocate residents and develop Gaza, which has been opposed by many other countries. In response, Secretary Rubio said that President Trump has presented a bold plan.
The president's also been very bold about his view of what the future for Gaza should be. Not the same tired ideas of the past, but something that's new, bold, and something that frankly took courage and vision in order to outline.
The two countries have also agreed to jointly address the nuclear threat posed by Iran.
Israel and America stand shoulder to shoulder in countering the threat of Iran. We agreed that the Ayatollahs must not have nuclear weapons. And we also agreed that Iran's aggression in the region has to be rolled back.
The conflict between Israel and Hamas in Gaza has entered a 6-week ceasefire from January 19th. The first phase is set to conclude on March 1st, but the negotiations for the second phase of the ceasefire are at a standstill.
So there is no exact timeline to finalizing the second phase of ceasefire plan. That the situation remains fluid and heavily influenced by political maneuvering and the ability of negotiators to facilitate these negotiations.
Meanwhile, Hamas says the 3 police officers were killed in Israeli airstrikes in southern Gaza, while Israel says it hit several armed individuals. Chae Kyoung-sun, Arirang News.
In a recent post on his social media platform, U.S. President Donald Trump sought to defend his reciprocal tariff proposal and dispute the so-called value-added taxes, claiming that America has been mistreated by its friends and foes alike. Our Lee Na-hyun covers his latest remarks.
U.S. President Donald Trump's plans to impose new tariffs on countries that utilize value-added tax systems have added another layer of uncertainty to South Korea's export competitiveness. Trump said Saturday that Washington will treat countries with a value-added tax system the same as those with tariffs in order to help calculate reciprocal duties on other countries. The comment raises concerns for South Korea, which, unlike the U.S., collects value-added tax. Typically, companies in countries with a VAT system, including South Korea, receive a VAT refund when exporting to the U.S. and only have to pay a relatively low sales tax. However, U.S. companies exporting to foreign countries have to pay a high VAT rate that they do not pay in the U.S. And for that reason, Trump has criticized VAT as being an unfair trade barrier for the U.S.
They do have something that is somewhat similar, which is the sales tax. Effectively, the U.S. sales tax can be considered something that is very similar, at least in the results.
And since South Korea's VAT rate is 10% higher than the average U.S. sales tax of 6.6% as of 2023, is fueling speculation that Trump will impose a 10% reciprocal tariff on all South Korean imports in April. Amid concerns over Trump's trade policies, Deputy Minister for Trade Park Jo-won left for the United States on Monday. During the 5-day visit, Park will meet with high-ranking officials from the U.S. Department of Commerce and the Office of the U.S. Trade Representative to discuss trade and other pending issues. This will be the first official visit to Washington by a high-ranking trade official since President Trump took office. Park is expected to hear the specifics of the trade policies under the Trump administration and convey Seoul's position on the matter. These discussions are particularly important because it will be challenging for the Korean government to devise response measures as VAT is applied based on the value added at each stage of production.
In the end, it is the consumers which pay the value-added tax. And right now, except for foodstuff, which is exempted, it's 10%. So we'll have to figure out some way to eliminate the import component of that 10%, and that could be difficult.
The same expert also added that another factor that makes this situation complex is how a large portion of the tax revenue for many nations, not just Korea, relies on VAT. Lee Na-hyun, Arirang News.
Meanwhile, in Germany this past weekend, Foreign Minister Cho Tae-yeol and his U.S. and Japanese counterparts Marco Rubio and Takeshi Iwaya, respectively, reaffirmed their resolve to rid the Korean peninsula of nuclear weapons, laying to rest rampant fears of a potential shift in American policy on North Korea's nuclear ambitions. Our foreign affairs correspondent Pei In-ji covers this commitment and the trilateral support for Taiwan.
South Korea's Foreign Minister Cho Tae-yeol and his American and Japanese counterparts Marco Rubio and Takeshi Iwaya met for the first time since U.S. President Donald Trump returned to the White House earlier this year and delivered a strong message that appears to be aimed at China. In a joint statement, they expressed their support for Taiwan's meaningful participation in appropriate international organizations. That detail, which could upset China, has never been included in a joint statement by the three countries before. This appears to reflect the Trump administration's hardline stance towards China, as Beijing has been making efforts to block Taiwan from joining the United Nations and many other global organizations. At a session of the Munich Security Conference, Foreign Minister Cho said it's only natural for South Korea to keep relations with both the U.S. and China in harmony to best serve its national interests, but added that this is easier said than done.
We can continue to improve our relations with Beijing while continue to upgrading our strong alliance with Washington. But particularly when it comes to the security issues, there's a limit to what we can do to accommodate demands from Beijing.
The three countries also made it clear in the joint statement that they reaffirmed their commitment to the complete denuclearization of North Korea. This gave reassurance to Seoul, particularly after Trump's comments referring to the North as a nuclear power raised concerns in South Korea, as they led to speculation that Washington could be shifting away from its focus on denuclearizing North Korea. And before the trilateral talks, Cho and Rubio held a separate meeting for about 40 minutes, where they agreed to closely cooperate on deterring North Korean threats. The two sides also reaffirmed that their alliance will continue to remain strong throughout Trump's second term in office, with Rubio reiterating his confidence in South Korea's acting president. Speaking to reporters in Munich, Cho said he expects the two countries to hold more high-level meetings, and that the government plans to consult with Washington on the issue of tariffs on steel and aluminum as soon as possible, to minimize possible damage to Korean companies. 배은지, Arirang News.
President Yoon Suk-yeol's impeachment trial enters its final week with 2 additional hearings this coming Tuesday and Thursday. But his legal team has requested a rescheduling of Thursday's session as the president's criminal trial starts on the same day. Our correspondent Oh Soo-young has the latest.
The Constitutional Court has not decided whether or not to change the date of President Yoon Suk-yeol's 10th impeachment hearing, as it also falls on the day that his criminal trial proceedings begin. Court press officer Chun Jae-yeon told reporters Monday that the judicial bench has not yet conveyed its decision, and it may or may not be announced before the 9th hearing on Tuesday. After the court decided to schedule 2 additional trial dates for Tuesday and Thursday this week, Yoon's team has objected to Thursday's session and on Friday filed a request to postpone the date to February 25th. The president's lawyers have on various occasions complained about the twice-weekly hearings, calling for just 1 session per week to allow for sufficient preparation. Especially as the Seoul Central District Court will begin Yoon's pre-trial hearings for his criminal case on Thursday morning, Yoon's legal team would be spread out over both trials. 15 lawyers are working on his criminal case, 21 on his impeachment trial. Among them, 13 are working on both. While some experts say the overlapping schedule weakens the right to legal self-defense, the Constitutional Court might still push ahead with the impeachment hearing in the afternoon, as the criminal trial is at 10 a.m. The court officer added that the National Assembly's impeachment panel has submitted its position that the Thursday hearing must not be delayed. Meanwhile, she said Tuesday's hearing will see the Assembly and Yoon's side each organize and make their claims from 2 p.m. Thursday's hearing for now will have 3 witness examinations, beginning with Prime Minister Han Duck-soo. Han previously stated that the president had not held a proper cabinet meeting before declaring martial law on December 3rd. Former Deputy Director of the National Intelligence Service Hong Jang-won was summoned earlier this month by the National Assembly side, but will return to be questioned by Yoon's legal team. Hong claims there was a list of 14 to 16 figures the president wanted to arrest under martial law. National Police Agency Commissioner General Cho Ji-ho will be questioned by both sides after missing 2 witness sessions for health reasons.
As the Constitutional Court has rejected all other witness applications, it remains to be seen whether the judicial bench will schedule additional hearings beyond the 10th session. It would take around 2 weeks for the justices to make a verdict based on previous presidential impeachment trials. Oh Soo-young, Arirang News.
The South Korean government and the country's small and mid-sized defense firms are showcasing an integrated booth at the latest 5-day International Defense Exhibition and Conference in Abu Dhabi, starting today. According to the State Arms Procurement Agency, this marks the first time for a joint booth by the two sides at an overseas defense show. South Korea will seek to share its remarkable advances in arms technology at the event as it aims to become the fourth largest defense exporter by the year 2027. In other news, another survivor of Japan's forced sexual slavery during World War II has passed away. According to authorities here, Gil Won-ok passed away at the age of 97 this past Sunday. Following her horrifying ordeal, Gil spent her life seeking to raise global awareness about Japan's atrocities. She was 13 years old when she was taken from her home in Pyongyang and forced to work as a sex slave. Out of the 240 survivors of Japan's shocking wartime system of sexual slavery registered here in South Korea, only 7 now remain. Politicians across the aisle here in the country are mourning her passing. The ruling People Power Party has highlighted the importance of remembering the witnesses of history, while the main opposition Democratic Party has vowed to work on legislation for survivors of Japan's sexual atrocity and for a sincere apology from the Japanese government. On the entertainment front, Squid Game Season 2's production designer has been honored with an Art Directors Guild Award. Chae Kyoung-sun won the award in the one-hour contemporary single-camera series category at a ceremony on Saturday in LA. The Art Directors Guild Awards acknowledges excellence in production design for both small and big screens. Chae also clinched an Art Directors Guild Award for exceptional visuals in Squid Game Season 1. On this segment of the interview, we turn the spotlight onto a rising speed skating star who won a remarkable number of medals at the latest Asian Winter Games in the Chinese city of Harbin. Our Park Go-nu sat down with her.
2 gold medals, 1 silver and 1 bronze. South Korean speed skater Lee Na-hyun's achievements at the 2025 Asian Winter Games. Skating since the age of 8, Lee recalls how she began realizing her talent as a young child.
That I won gold medals in most of the races when I first started. So I was very into this sport since I was very young. And I think I enjoyed every moment.
That's how things continued. Last year, Lee broke the junior world record in the 500 meters and then went on to win medals in every race at the Asian Games this year. Although Lee humbly said it feels like she has just taken her first step in her career, she is hungry for more medals.
I would love to win so many races as possible. I'll try to get 100. But I think, honestly, like 10 to 15 is, like my goal right now. Yeah.
Showing her humility, she even said she first needs to improve her skills.
My goal is just to keep showing people that I improved in every races, and also to show them a good conditions in the Olympics. I would love to get a medal, but first my goal is to do all the things that I practice in training.
This mindset ties into her personal life motto.
I always tell myself, let's not make this regrettable. Let's show everything I've got. Keep training hard until your role model become your rival.
Called the next Lee Sang-hwa, Lee spoke with admiration for her role model.
I love that nickname and I feel honored, and it makes me feel like I have to do more harder. If I meet her, I would say, I'm a fan of you and I want to be like you, so please watch how I do.
Looking ahead, Lee plans to skate for at least another decade, leaving a message to her future self.
10 years later, I would tell myself to just enjoy skating. Like, no need to get a medal, just keep pushing myself hard. I just Just do it, as you can always quit.
She also expressed her desire to remain the first athlete that comes to mind when thinking of speed skating, while requesting more support for both the sport and herself. Park Gon-woo, Arirang News.
This is The World Now, bringing you the latest stories from around the globe. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy declined the Trump administration's critical minerals deal, which suggests that the United States take a 50% stake in Ukraine's vast critical mineral resources, citing a lack of security provisions. On Saturday, Zelenskyy said the draft minerals deal with Washington did not include any security guarantees and emphasized that any such agreement must include robust security assurances to protect Ukraine's sovereignty and deter further aggression from Russia. The U.S. proposal was presented by Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent during his visit to Kyiv on February 12th and aims to secure half of Ukraine's rare earth mineral rights as compensation for past military and financial aid, as well as payment for future assistance. Trump has previously said he wanted $500 billion worth of critical minerals from Ukraine to reduce dependence on China for rare earth materials. Chinese Premier Li Qiang and Cook Islands Prime Minister Mark Brown on Friday held a meeting aimed at strengthening bilateral relations and cooperation between the two nations. The Cook Islands said Saturday that it signed a comprehensive strategic partnership deal with China during the discussions in Harbin. Premier Li emphasized China's commitment to deepening political mutual trust with the Cook Islands. He proposed aligning the Belt and Road Initiative with the Cook Islands development strategies to enhance collaboration in various sectors, including maritime infrastructure, agriculture, fisheries, and cultural exchanges. Prime Minister Brown acknowledged the nearly three-decade-long friendship between the two states and reaffirmed the Cook Islands' adherence to the One China policy, while assuring that relations with China do not impinge on long-standing ties with New Zealand. In Austria, a 14-year-old boy was killed and 5 people were injured in a stabbing attack in the city of Villach on Saturday. The attacker, a 23-year-old Syrian national, was apprehended at the scene. Authorities have identified the incident as an Islamist attack and said the suspect had sworn allegiance to the Islamic State. A local food delivery driver's swift intervention by using his vehicle to impede the attacker likely prevented further casualties. The attack follows a series of similar incidents in Europe and has intensified discussions on immigration and security policies within the country. Finally, in the United States, Marvel Studios' latest release, Captain America: Brave New World, has delivered box office success during its opening weekend, with the highest-ranking domestic debut of the year. The film garnered $88.5 million domestically over the 3-day period, with projections estimating a total of $100 million by the end of the 4-day President's Day holiday on Monday. Internationally, it accumulated an additional $92.4 million. This performance also marks the 4th best President's Day holiday opening on record. Chae Ji-hee, Arirang News.
It seemed as if spring was coming, but the cold is back again. In Seoul today, the daytime temperature dropped by 7 degrees Celsius in one day. With frigid cold everywhere, cold wave advisories are issued in eastern parts of Gangwon-do province and Gyeongsang-buk-do province. The morning temperature in Seoul is expected to plummet to -5 degrees tomorrow. On Tuesday and Wednesday, it will drop even further to -7 degrees Celsius. The feels-like temperature will stay around -10 degrees. The weather will get colder with stronger cold waves throughout the week. Please take care. Tomorrow, the whole country will start off at below 0 degrees, Daejeon at -6 degrees, and Gwangju at -4 degrees. Daily highs will move up to 3 degrees in Chuncheon, 6 degrees in Busan. With frigid conditions, East Coast areas are still drying up with gusty winds. Extra precautions against fire are necessary. That's all for Korea. Here are the weather conditions around the world.
Those are the headlines at this hour here in South Korea. Thank you for watching.